Arrival in chaos. Zorath, a medic from the distant planet Viridia, clutched the edge of his transport shuttle as it rattled through turbulent air. Below him lay an alien world, its surface marred by war, a patchwork of craters and scorched earth that told stories of conflict. As he peered through the small viewport, anxiety twisted in his stomach. This was his first deployment among humans, and he couldn't shake off the feeling that he was stepping into chaos. The shuttle lurched violently as it descended, kicking up clouds of dust that swirled around like angry spirits. Zorath had trained for this moment. He was skilled in advanced healing techniques and had studied human anatomy extensively, but nothing could prepare him for the sight that awaited him upon landing. With a hiss, the shuttle doors opened to reveal blinding sunlight illuminating a scene straight out of turmoil. Soldiers rushed past him, their uniforms stained with dirt and sweat. Shouts filled the air, mingling with the distant sounds of gunfire. Panic surged through him. He had expected some semblance of order, but instead found himself amidst utter disarray. "Hey, you must be our new medic," a voice boomed over the din. Zorath turned to see a tall human with wild hair and an infectious grin striding toward him. "I'm Sergeant Miller. Welcome to hell." Zorath blinked in confusion as Miller clapped him on the back with surprising force. "We don't have time for formalities. We're under fire from those raiders again. Grab your gear." As Miller led him away from the shuttle, Zorath felt his heart race. He had spent years perfecting his craft, administering care with precision and calmness. But here he was being thrust into chaos without so much as an introduction to his new unit or their protocols. My med kit," he stammered, glancing back at the shuttle where he had left it behind. "Forget it. You'll need to learn fast," Miller shouted over his shoulder as they ducked behind a makeshift barricade made from scrap metal. "We've got incoming." Zorath's mind raced as he crouched beside Miller. He watched as soldiers moved with an urgency that both amazed and terrified him. They shouted commands at one another while firing their weapons with reckless abandon. He couldn't comprehend how they operated under such stress. Where was their strategy? Their formation? "Corporal Jones," Miller yelled, pointing at another soldier who was dragging an injured comrade toward safety. "Get him patched up." Zorath felt an instinctual pull to help but hesitated. He had never worked under such conditions before. His training emphasized meticulous care, clean environments, thorough assessments, but here everything seemed haphazard. "Doc," Miller barked again, snapping him out of his thoughts. "You're gonna have to move. That guy needs you." With no time to waste, Zorath sprang into action. He knelt beside the injured soldier, a young man with a deep gash across his arm, and quickly assessed the wound. His hands moved instinctively as he applied pressure to stop the bleeding while reaching for his emergency field kit. "Hang in there," he urged, trying to maintain calmness despite his racing heart. The soldier winced but managed a weak smile. "You're not from around here, are you?" "I am trained," Zorath replied, focusing on sealing the wound with adhesive strips designed for quick closure. "Good enough for me," said the soldier before wincing again as pain shot through him. Zorath worked swiftly but carefully. Every second felt like an eternity under fire. He could hear bullets whizzing past them, somehow both terrifying and exhilarating at once. Just then, another soldier stumbled over to them, a woman with dirt-smudged cheeks who looked equally exhausted yet determined. "Doc, we need you over here," she shouted urgently as she pointed toward another injured comrade lying several meters away. Zorath hesitated for just a moment before nodding resolutely. This was what he had signed up for, to save lives amidst chaos, even if it meant stepping outside his comfort zone. As he moved toward the next wounded soldier, a man clutching his leg in agony, he felt something shift within him. Perhaps this chaotic battlefield was not just madness, but also an opportunity for connection, a chance to understand these humans who fought so fiercely for one another. With each injury he treated that day, from lacerations to burns, Zoreth began to see beyond their reckless bravado. These soldiers were bound by something deeper than mere duty. They were comrades forged in fire, willing to risk everything for each other's survival. By dusk, when silence fell over the battlefield like a heavy blanket after hours of relentless fighting, Zoreth found himself sitting amidst weary soldiers who shared stories of bravery and loss around flickering campfires. Laughter erupted occasionally among them despite their injuries. They were alive, and somehow that felt like victory enough. As he listened intently to their tales of battles fought and comrades lost, Zoreth realized that perhaps chaos wasn't just disorder. It was also where bonds were formed under pressure, a testament to resilience that transcended species boundaries. In that moment, beneath alien stars twinkling overhead alongside distant echoes from earlier skirmishes fading into memory, Zoreth understood something profound about humanity. They were not merely reckless warriors. They were fiercely loyal friends willing to stand shoulder to shoulder against any threat together. He smiled softly at this newfound understanding. It seemed maybe this chaotic world wasn't so terrifying after all. The first battle. The sun hummed low in the sky, casting long shadows over the battlefield as Zoreth adjusted to his new reality. The chaos of the previous skirmish had left him breathless, but now, as he stood among the human soldiers, he felt a strange sense of belonging. He was no longer just an alien medic. He was part of something larger, a unit fighting for survival, preparing for conflict. "All right, listen up." Sergeant Miller's voice cut through the din as he gathered the troops around him. "We've got intel that the Sekeri raiders are planning another attack. They're getting bolder, and we need to be ready." Zoreth listened intently, trying to absorb every detail. He had studied human military tactics, but seeing them in action was a different experience altogether. The humans were animated, exchanging jokes and banter even in the face of danger. It was a stark contrast to his own people, who approached warfare with cold efficiency and strategic precision. "Doc," Miller called out, snapping Zoreth back to attention. "You ready for your first real battle?" Zoreth nodded, though uncertainty gnawed at him. He had treated injuries before, but this would be different. The stakes were higher, and he could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. The call to action. As they prepared for deployment, Zoreth organized his medical supplies with care. He had brought advanced healing gels and emergency field kits designed for Virillian physiology, but he knew he needed to adapt them for human use. He glanced at the other soldiers as they loaded their weapons and checked their gear, each one displaying a mix of confidence and camaraderie that intrigued him. "Hey, Doc," Corporal Jones shouted from across the makeshift camp. "You think you can patch me up if I get hit? I'd hate to miss out on the fun." Zoreth chuckled nervously but replied earnestly, "I will do my best to ensure you remain uninjured." Jones laughed heartily. "That's the spirit. But if you do have to patch me up, make it quick. I don't want to miss any action." Into the fray. With their gear secured and adrenaline pumping through their veins, the unit boarded their transport vehicle once more. Zoreth took a seat beside Miller, who gripped the edge of his seat with excitement. "Just remember," Miller said with a grin, "stay close to me and keep your eyes open. You'll do great." As they rolled toward the front lines, Zoreth felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. The landscape outside transformed into a blur, dusty plains dotted with rocky outcrops, until they reached their destination, a ridge overlooking a valley where the Sekeri raiders were rumored to be gathering. "All right, team," Miller said as they disembarked. "We're going to set up a defensive perimeter here. Keep your heads down and watch each other's backs." Zoreth moved quickly to establish a makeshift medical station behind cover. He laid out his supplies and prepared himself mentally for what was about to come. The onslaught begins. Suddenly, the air was filled with distant rumblings that grew louder by the second. Zoreth's heart raced as he realized it was not thunder but the sound of approaching enemy vehicles. "Here they come," someone shouted. The first wave of Sekeri raiders surged into view, dark figures clad in armor that glinted menacingly under the sun. They were fast and aggressive, charging toward the human position with reckless abandon. "Hold your fire until they're in range," Miller commanded. Zorath's hands trembled slightly as he watched the chaos unfold before him. Humans fired their weapons with precision, while others took cover behind rocks and debris. The battlefield erupted into a cacophony of blaster fire and shouts. A moment of truth. As Zorath prepared himself for what lay ahead, he suddenly saw a soldier go down, a young woman who had been fighting fiercely alongside her comrades. She collapsed onto the ground with a pained cry. "Medic!" Someone yelled amidst the chaos. Instinct kicked in as Zorath sprinted toward her without thinking twice. He reached her side just as another soldier dragged her away from danger. "What happened?" Zorath asked urgently as he knelt beside her. "I'm hit. It hurts," she gasped, clutching her shoulder where blood seeped through her uniform. Zorath quickly assessed her injury. It was severe but not life-threatening if treated promptly. He reached for his autocauterizer, a device designed for rapid wound sealing, and activated it with shaking hands. "Stay still," he instructed gently as he pressed it against her wound. The soldier winced but nodded bravely. "Just hurry. I can't let them win." Zorath focused intently on his task, blocking out everything else, the sounds of battle fading into background noise as he concentrated on saving this life before him. The cauterizer hissed softly as it sealed her wound. Within moments, she looked up at him with gratitude shining in her eyes. "You did it. Thank you," she exclaimed before scrambling back to her feet. Forging connections. As Zorath returned to his makeshift station, he felt an unfamiliar warmth spread through him, an emotion that transcended fear or uncertainty. He was no longer just an alien medic. He was part of this unit's fight for survival. Throughout the battle, Zorath treated several injuries, each time feeling more confident in his abilities and more connected to these humans who fought so fiercely for one another. They were reckless at times, but also resilient. They laughed in the face of danger and rallied around each other when things got tough. After what felt like hours of fighting, the tide began to turn in favor of the humans. With strategic maneuvers led by Miller and Jones, they pushed back against the Sekiri raiders until finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the last enemy fell. Celebration amidst chaos. As silence descended over the battlefield once more, Zorath found himself surrounded by jubilant soldiers celebrating their hard-fought victory. They were dirty and battered but alive, filled with an infectious energy that made him smile despite himself. "Doc," Jake called out from across the field, waving him over excitedly. "You survived your first battle. What do you think?" "It was intense," Zorath replied honestly as he joined them in celebration. "You did good work today," Miller added with a nod of approval. "We couldn't have done it without you." Zorath felt warmth spread through him again, this time deeper than before, as he realized that perhaps chaos wasn't just madness. It was also where bonds were formed under pressure, a testament to resilience that transcended species boundaries. In that moment, beneath alien stars twinkling overhead alongside distant echoes from earlier skirmishes fading into memory, Zorath understood something profound about humanity. They were not merely reckless warriors. They were shields for each other. And amidst this swirling sand and echoing blaster fire, Zorath realized he found his place among their ranks, not just as a medic from Viridia, but as part of something greater, a unit forged in chaos yet bound by loyalty and friendship that would carry them through whatever lay ahead. Building trust. The aftermath of the first battle had left Zorath buzzing with a mix of adrenaline and confusion. The humans, despite their reckless behavior, had shown him the power of camaraderie and resilience. As the sun rose over the horizon, casting a warm glow on the battlefield, Zorath felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was no longer just an alien medic. He was part of a team, and it was time to build trust among his new comrades. A new day. The camp was alive with activity as soldiers prepared for the day ahead. Zoreth emerged from his tent, stretching his limbs and taking in the sights and sounds around him. He watched as Sergeant Miller barked orders, directing soldiers to clean their weapons and check their gear. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation. They were preparing for another mission, and Zoreth could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on him. "Hey, Doc," Corporal Jones called out, waving him over. "You ready for some training today?" Zoreth approached, intrigued. "Training? What kind?" "Just some drills to help you get used to our ways," Jones replied with a grin. "We'll show you how we operate in the field." Zoreth nodded, eager to learn more about human tactics. He had studied their strategies, but experiencing them firsthand would be invaluable. As they gathered in a clearing, he felt a sense of belonging growing within him. The training exercise. Miller explained the drill. They would simulate a combat scenario where Zoreth would need to treat injured soldiers while under fire. The idea struck Zoreth as both exhilarating and terrifying. He had never practiced medicine in such conditions before. "Remember," Miller said, "stay focused on your patients. We'll cover you." As the drill began, Zoreth watched as the soldiers moved with precision and teamwork. They communicated through shouts and gestures, each one aware of their role in protecting one another. When one soldier fell during the exercise, a mock injury from simulated enemy fire, Zoreth sprang into action. Kneeling beside the fallen soldier, he assessed the situation quickly. "What's your injury?" he asked, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "I've got a leg wound," the soldier groaned. Zoreth opened his medkit and pulled out a splint and bandages. He worked swiftly, applying pressure to stop the bleeding while keeping an eye on his surroundings. The sounds of gunfire echoed in the distance, but he focused solely on his task. "Good job, Doc," Miller shouted from nearby as he took down an imaginary enemy with impressive accuracy. "Keep it up." Zoreth felt a surge of confidence as he treated the soldier's leg. The training exercise continued around him. Soldiers strategizing, moving in formation, and covering each other's backs, creating an environment that felt both chaotic and harmonious. Learning through experience. After several rounds of drills, Zoreth found himself increasingly comfortable in this new role. He learned to anticipate injuries based on combat scenarios and adapted his techniques to suit human physiology better. Each successful treatment built his confidence further. During a break between drills, Zoreth sat with Jones and another soldier named Private Kim. They shared stories about their backgrounds, how they had joined the military, and what motivated them to fight. "I joined because I wanted to protect my family," Jones said earnestly. "It's about more than just fighting. It's about standing up for what's right." Zoreth listened intently, realizing that these humans were driven by strong emotions, loyalty to their comrades and love for their families. It was something he admired deeply. Virillians were often more focused on logic than emotion. "What about you?" Kim asked Zoreth curiously. "I am here to help," Zoreth replied simply but honestly. "To heal those who are injured." "Yeah. Well, you're doing great." Kim smiled encouragingly. "You've got our backs out there." The warmth of their acceptance filled Zoreth with gratitude. For so long, he had felt like an outsider among humans. Now he was beginning to feel like part of their family, a bond forged through shared experiences and mutual respect. A moment of crisis. Later that day, while they were practicing tactical maneuvers in preparation for their next mission, an unexpected incident occurred that tested everything Zoreth had learned so far. During a mock assault drill where they pretended to storm an enemy position, one soldier miscalculated his jump over an obstacle and landed awkwardly. A sharp cry pierced through the air as he clutched his ankle in agony. "Medic!" someone shouted urgently. Zoreth's heart raced as he rushed toward the fallen soldier alongside Miller and Jones. The chaos of battle simulations faded away. All that mattered was reaching him quickly. "What happened?" Zoreth asked as he knelt beside the injured man. "I think I twisted my ankle badly," The soldier winced in pain as Zorath examined his injury. Zorath quickly assessed the situation. Swelling had already begun to form around the joint. He reached for a splint from his kit, while Miller helped stabilize the soldier's leg. "Hold still," Zorath instructed gently as he wrapped the splint around the ankle carefully. "You're doing great," Miller encouraged him while keeping an eye on their surroundings for any potential threats during this critical moment. Once Zorath secured the splint tightly enough without cutting off circulation, but loose enough not to cause further pain, he looked up at the injured soldier with determination in his eyes. "You'll be okay," Zorath assured him confidently. "Just rest it for now." As they helped lift him onto a makeshift stretcher fashioned from nearby materials, Zorath felt a rush of pride wash over him. He had acted swiftly under pressure without hesitation or doubt. Strengthening bonds. After treating the injured soldier and ensuring he received proper care back at camp, Zorath found himself reflecting on how far he had come since arriving on this chaotic planet only days ago. The bond between him and his human comrades grew stronger each day, a connection built not only through shared battles, but also through moments like these when they relied on one another completely without question or fear. That evening around a campfire under starlit skies, filled with laughter echoing throughout their makeshift base, Zorath realized that trust wasn't just about performing duties together. It was about understanding each other's strengths and weaknesses while supporting one another unconditionally, no matter what challenges lay ahead. As they shared stories over roasted rations, their laughter mingling with crackling flames, Zorath felt something shift within himself. Perhaps this chaotic world wasn't so terrifying after all. He was no longer just an alien medic. He was part of something extraordinary, a family forged through trials faced together amidst chaos where bonds transcended species boundaries, a testament to resilience that defined humanity itself. Facing doubts. The days following the first battle were filled with a mix of triumph and tension. Zorath had earned the respect of his human comrades, but he also felt the weight of their expectations pressing down on him. The thrill of the fight had invigorated him, yet lingering doubts began to creep into his mind. Could he continue to perform under such pressure? Could he truly adapt to this chaotic environment? A shifting dynamic. As the unit prepared for their next mission, Zorath watched his comrades train with an intensity that was both inspiring and intimidating. They moved fluidly, practicing maneuvers that showcased their teamwork and resilience. Yet, amidst their camaraderie, Zorath felt a growing sense of isolation. He was still an outsider, a medic from another world trying to fit into a culture that thrived on chaos and unpredictability. "Hey Doc," Jones called out one afternoon as they gathered for a briefing. "You ready for another round?" Zorath forced a smile, though anxiety twisted in his stomach. "I am prepared," he replied, but inside, he questioned whether he truly was. Miller noticed his hesitation and approached him after the briefing. "You did great last time, Zorath. Don't doubt yourself." "I appreciate your confidence," Zorath said, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. "But what if I fail? What if I cannot keep up with you all?" Miller placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We're all learning here. Just remember, this isn't about perfection. It's about survival and supporting each other." The weight of responsibility. As they set out on their next mission, a reconnaissance operation to gather intelligence on Sekiri movements, Zorath's mind raced with thoughts of what could go wrong. The terrain was rugged, dotted with rocky outcrops and treacherous cliffs. He felt a knot tighten in his chest as they moved deeper into enemy territory. "Stay sharp," Miller called out as they advanced cautiously through the rocky landscape. Zorath kept close to Miller, observing how the humans navigated the terrain with an instinctive understanding that seemed foreign to him. They communicated in hushed tones, each soldier aware of their role while maintaining an air of camaraderie that made Zorath feel both welcomed and anxious. Suddenly, the tranquility shattered as gunfire erupted nearby. Zorath's heart raced as he instinctively ducked behind a rock for cover. The chaos of battle returned in an instant, Shouts filled the air as humans scrambled for safety while returning fire against unseen enemies. "Medic!" someone yelled amid the chaos. Zorath's instincts kicked in as he rushed toward the source of the call, but doubt gnawed at him. What if he failed to save this soldier? What if he couldn't handle the pressure? A critical moment. When Zorath reached the injured soldier, a young man with a severe wound to his abdomen. Panic surged through him. The sight was gruesome. Blood soaked through his uniform as he gasped for breath. "Stay with me," Zorath urged as he knelt beside him, forcing himself to focus despite his racing thoughts. "Doc, I can't. Feel my legs," the soldier stammered. Fear etched across his face. Zorath's hands trembled as he assessed the injury. It was critical but not hopeless if treated immediately. He reached for his autocauterizer, but hesitated, doubt clouding his mind once more. "Zorath, you've got this," Miller shouted from nearby as he engaged in combat with approaching Sakari raiders. The word snapped something inside Zorath. He realized that this moment wasn't just about him. It was about saving a life, about being part of this team that had accepted him despite their differences. With renewed determination, Zorath activated the cauterizer and pressed it against the wound. The soldier winced but held steady as Zorath worked quickly to seal the injury. "Just breathe," Zorath instructed firmly, focusing solely on his task. As he applied bandages and stabilizing splints, Zorath felt a shift within himself, a surge of confidence igniting amidst the chaos around him. He was no longer just an alien medic. He was part of this battle, part of something larger than himself. Aftermath and reflection. Once the immediate threat had been neutralized and reinforcements arrived to secure the area, Zorath took a moment to catch his breath. The adrenaline coursing through him began to fade, leaving behind a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. The young soldier lay unconscious but stable beside him. Zorath had done everything he could in that moment. As medics arrived to take over care, Zorath stepped back and observed his comrades celebrating their small victory amidst the rubble. Miller approached him, a grin spreading across his face despite the dirt and grime covering them both. "You did it. You saved him." "I was just doing my job," Zorath replied modestly, though pride swelled within him at their praise. "No," Miller insisted seriously. "You showed us what it means to be part of this team, to fight for each other no matter what." Confronting self-doubt. That night around a campfire under a starry sky filled with laughter echoing throughout their makeshift base, Zorath found himself reflecting on how far he had come since arriving on this chaotic planet only days ago. He had faced doubts that threatened to consume him, but had emerged stronger because of them. The bond between him and his human comrades grew deeper each day, a connection built not only through shared battles, but also through moments like these when they relied on one another completely without question or fear. As they shared stories over roasted rations, their laughter mingling with crackling flames, Zorath felt something shift within himself. Perhaps this chaotic world wasn't so terrifying after all. He realized that trust wasn't just about performing duties together. It was about understanding each other's strengths and weaknesses while supporting one another unconditionally, no matter what challenges lay ahead. A lesson learned. In that moment, beneath alien stars twinkling overhead alongside distant echoes from earlier skirmishes fading into memory, Zorath understood something profound about humanity. They were not merely reckless warriors. They were shields for each other. And amidst this swirling sand and echoing blaster fire, Zorath realized he'd found his place among their ranks, not just as a medic from Viridia, but as part of something greater. A unit forged in chaos yet bound by loyalty and friendship that would carry them through whatever lay ahead. As he sat there surrounded by laughter and warmth, the flickering firelight illuminating faces filled with determination, Zorath knew one thing for certain. Doubts may linger in shadows, but together they would face whatever came next, and together they would emerge victorious.